The first flare split the midnight sky like a wound, and in its brief, ghostly light, the convoy became a row of helpless silhouettes against the barren ridge. The explosion came a heartbeat later, a violent roar that swallowed the desert air and sent metal screaming into the darkness. Dust, smoke, and the sharp scent of burning fuel choked the night. In that chaos, while seasoned soldiers scrambled for cover and the enemy fire carved lines of fire across the sand, one woman knelt beside a fallen man with steady hands and a trembling heart. They had laughed at her hours earlier. They had called her just a medic. Before this night was over, they would call her something else entirely. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Bright Hearts. Stories like this remind us that even the quietest souls can change the course of history. Her name was Elena Marquez, 29 years old, a combat nurse with 5 years of service stitched into her uniform like invisible medals. She was not the tallest in the unit, nor the loudest. Her dark hair was always tied back in a tight, practical bun beneath her helmet, her brown eyes observant and thoughtful. She carried no stories of battlefield heroics, only stories of hands she had held and wounds she had closed. To the infantry unit she had recently joined, she was an attachment, a necessity, a safety net. Useful, yes. But not one of them. The ambush had been predicted as a possibility, but possibilities feel distant until they ignite beneath your boots. The convoy had been crossing a narrow desert pass, cliffs rising on either side like silent witnesses. The mission was routine on paper. Escort and resupply. Routine was a word that made soldiers careless and medics vigilant. Elena had felt something tight in her chest as they entered the pass, a quiet intuition she had learned to trust in hospital corridors long before she ever stepped onto sand. Earlier that evening, as they prepared to roll out, a few of the men had joked about her presence. They had laughed lightly, not cruelly but dismissively, saying she would be busy patching scraped knees if anything happened. One had smirked and said she should stay near the rear, far from the real action. Elena had smiled politely, checking her medical kit for the third time. She did not resent them. She understood the culture, the armor of humor that soldiers wore to make fear tolerable. But beneath that understanding was a quiet ache, a wish to be seen not as an accessory but as a soldier in her own right. When the first blast overturned the lead vehicle, training took over. The world slowed into fragments, shouting voices, the crack of rifles, the sharp sting of sand against skin. Elena sprinted forward before anyone could tell her not to. A soldier lay half beneath the twisted metal, his leg pinned, blood pooling dark against the pale ground. Gunfire stitched the air above them, and the cliffs amplified every shot into a thunderclap. Fear rose in her throat like fire, but she swallowed it. Fear could wait. The bleeding could not. She dropped to her knees, fingers already working, assessing, pressing, stabilizing. The soldier's eyes were wide, unfocused, shock setting in fast. Elena leaned close, her voice steady even as her heart pounded against her ribs. She blocked out the chaos and focused on the rhythm of his pulse, the texture of the wound, the pressure of her hands. Around her, others returned fire, their movements sharp and reactive. She was stillness in the storm, a center of gravity amid collapse. Another explosion rocked the pass, showering them with debris. A piece of shrapnel tore into the sand inches from her shoulder. Someone shouted at her to fall back, to get to cover. She didn't. She couldn't. The soldier beneath her hands was fading, and retreat would mean surrendering him to the darkness creeping at the edges of his vision. She wore